This story comes from Japan. A long time ago in Japan, there was a young man who had nothing. He had no job, he had no home, he had no family. And although he tried as hard as he could, it seemed like there was nothing he could do to change his luck. So at last he decided that he would go to the temple of the goddess Kannon, and he would pray to the goddess for some kind of change in his life. And after he said his prayers, he lay down in the temple, and he slept there for the night. And when the man slept, he had a dream. And in that dream, he saw the goddess Kannon bathed in a golden light. And she came to him and she said, "The first thing that you touch will be your luck." When the man woke up the next morning, he remembered everything from his dream. He ran outside the temple and then he tripped and he fell down those temple stairs. And as he fell, he reached out and he grabbed the only thing his hand could catch, which turned out to be a piece of straw. And he remembered the goddess's words, "The first thing that you touch will be your luck." And he thought, this piece of straw is my luck? But who was he to argue with a goddess? And so he began to walk down the road, holding his piece of straw. And as he walked, a fly began to buzz around his face. And finally he caught that fly. And he tied a piece of thread onto it. And he tied it onto the straw. And he began to walk with the fly circling around his head on the end of the piece of the straw. Now, as he walked, he came across a woman with a baby. And the woman was bouncing the baby and she was rocking and the baby was wailing. The baby was laughing. And the baby was laughing because it had seen the man walking along with a piece of straw and the fly going round and round his head. And the mother said, "Oh, you have made my baby laugh. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I have been trying for an hour to get him to stop crying." And she said, "For that, I must give you a reward." And she looked in her bag and she said, "Well, I don't have much, but I do have these 3 tangerines. Will you take these?" And the man said, "Thank you." And he took the 3 tangerines and put them into his bag and he said goodbye to the mother and the baby and continued to walk along the road. Well, he hadn't gone very far when he heard a voice. Please, you have water. Anything to drink." It was an old silk seller, a woman at the side of the road, and her lips were chapped, her skin was dry, and she looked so frail and so weak. Please, I need something to drink." The man had nothing to drink. But then he remembered that he had 3 tangerines in his bag, so he reached inside and he pulled them out and he said, "Here, I don't have anything to drink, but take these." And the woman, she ripped the peel off those tangerines and stuffed 1, 2, 3 into her mouth until the juices were running down her chin and dripping down onto her clothing. "Thank you," she said. "Thank you, I was so dry. And you are the only one who stopped to give me anything. Let me give you something in return." And she reached behind her and she pulled out a beautiful bolt of silk. And she said, take this fabric as a reward for helping me." And the young man, the man who'd had nothing that morning, now went off down the road with a bolt of silk under his arm. And he walked, and he walked, and he walked until ahead of him there was a whole group of soldiers gathered around something on the ground, and they were kicking and they were swearing. He said, "What is it?" And then he saw what it was. It was a horse lying on the ground, and it looked like it was almost dead. It was barely moving. Its mouth was panting, and the men were kicking it and saying, "Get up, you stupid beast." The man said, "Stop. Please don't hurt that horse." And the soldiers said, "It's a useless horse. If it doesn't get up, we're going to have to kill it." And the man said, "Well, don't kill it. Maybe you would trade me. I have a bolt of cloth. "Here, take my bolt of cloth for the horse." Well, the soldiers were delighted because they thought they were going to have to kill that horse anyway. So they took the bolt of cloth, went happily down the road, and left the man, proud owner of a nearly dead horse. He looked at that horse, and he saw how dry its tongue was, coated with white. And he thought, well, maybe it's thirsty. And he remembered that as he'd been walking, he passed a little stream not far back. So he ran back to the stream, and he took off his shirt and he dipped it in the stream, and he came back. And he wrung that shirt out right over top of the horse so that the water dripped down onto its tongue. And the horse lifted its head. Well, the man went back to the stream, dipped his shirt in again, came back, wrung it out over the horse's mouth, and that horse sat right up. And the man went back to the stream, and he dipped his shirt in, and he came back, and he rang it over the horse. And this time, when the horse finished licking the drips off its face, it stood right up. And it didn't look that bad at all. The man was able to lead the horse to the stream, where the horse was able to drink as much as it wanted. And once it had, there was absolutely nothing wrong with that horse. Not only could the man lead it, he could actually get on the horse and ride it, which he did, until the end of the day when it was time to look for a place to sleep. Now, around that time, they were passing a farm, and he looked out into the field, and he could see the farmer out there. The farmer was plowing, but instead of his plow being pulled by a horse or an ox, the farmer's wife was in the front of the plow, and she was bent almost double her face, just grimacing with pain. And the man said, "Stop, stop." He called to the farmer and he said, "That job is too hard for a person. You should have a cow or a horse hooked up to that plow." And the farmer said, "Of course I should. If I had a cow or a horse, I would do just that. But our cow died yesterday, and the only way we're going to get this field plowed is if my wife pulls the plow." And the young man said, "No, I have a horse right here. We'll hook my horse up to the plow and get your field plowed." And that's what they did. The horse pulled the plow, and in no time they had that field plowed. The farmer and the wife were so delighted, they invited the young man to come home for dinner and then to sleep at their house. And the next day they'd asked if he would stay and work on their fields. One day turned into another day, turned into another, to another, and they were getting along wonderfully. The man and the woman were delighted to have help. And in fact, they came to the young man and they said, "You know, we have no children of our own, and you have been such a great help to us here on the farm. Would you consider staying with us and becoming our son?" And the man beamed. He said, "I have no mother, I have no father. I would be delighted to live with you." And that is how the man, who started out with no job, no family, and no home, ended up with a job working on the farm, the farmer and the wife for family, and a home where he lived happily till the end of his days.